All right, guys, this is the lesson that is talking about the law of cosines. We are only dealing with the law of cosines when we're given three sides of a triangle. All right. There's other ways to apply the law of cosines, but we're just going to work right now on when we're given three sides of a triangle. So when you're given three sides of a triangle, you're going to have to use one of these formulas in order to find the missing angle. All right. So if you're given, you can use whichever one you want, depending on what angle we're trying to find, that sort of a thing. But one thing you do need to remember, and I'll say this again, is you have to find the biggest angle first. Okay. Once we use the law of cosines for our first step to find the angle, we'll then use the law of sines to figure out the rest of our triangle. So if I'm going through here, like I just said, we're talking about the law of cosines. We're going to be given all three sides. The law of cosines is similar to the Pythagorean theorem, but we don't use the Pythagorean theorem because that's for a right triangle only. And we're not talking about right triangles, so that's why we're using the law of cosines. All right, so here is a question. Do you guys see we can't use the law of sines because in order to use the law of sines, you have to have an angle and its corresponding side. And right now we only have three sides. So the first thing you guys have to do, and this is super duper important for you to get these questions right, you have to find the biggest angle or longest side first. Have to. So when I'm looking at this triangle that they gave me here, what is the longest side and therefore the biggest angle? What's the longest side, guys, between 5, 8, and 12? 12. So the longest side is across from the biggest angle. So we're going to solve this triangle. We're going to find angle A, we're going to find angle B, and we're going to find angle C. Right? We have all three of the sides. We don't have the angles. So in order to find angle C, since that's the biggest angle, the longest side, we're going to use the equation that says C squared equals, look back at your notes and tell me what it is. A squared plus B squared minus 2AB times the cosine of C. You guys agree with me? Did I write that down correctly? Yes or no? So what's the longest? What's C? What am I putting in for C? 12. So I have 12 squared equals A is 8. No, just kidding. A is 5. A is 5 squared plus 8 squared. Would that have made a difference? No, but just I don't want to confuse you. Minus 2 times A is 5. B is 8 times the cosine of C. So simplify here, guys. 12 squared is 144. 5 squared is 25. 8 squared is 64. 2 times 5 times 8 is what? 80. So minus 80 times the cosine of C. Everybody with me so far? Okay, simplify a little bit more. What is 25 plus 64? 25 plus 64 is what? 89 minus 80 times the cosine of C. All right, I'm trying to get the cosine of C all by itself. So what am I going to have to do to get cosine of C all by itself? It's my first step. First step, guys. Anybody? Do I subtract 89 or do I divide by negative 80? We're going to subtract 89. We're solving a normal equation like we usually would. So what's 144 minus 89? 55 equals negative 80 times the cosine of C. How do I get cosine C all by itself? Divide both sides by negative 80. So So I get the cosine of C equals, and in my calculator, I have negative 0.6875. Guys, that gives me the cosine of C. That does not give me the angle measure. So when we were doing the law of sines, the opposite of sine was second sine, or the inverse, right? So same thing here with cosine. I'm going to hit cosine negative 1 in my calculator. And I get that angle C is 133, we'll say 0.4 degrees. So angle C up here, I'm going to write down, is 133.4 degrees. Questions? All right, now that I have an angle and its corresponding side measure, what can I use to find the other pieces? We already know how to do this. What can I use to find the other pieces? The law of what? What did we do the last 2 days, guys? Section 5.5 was the law of what? Yep, law of sines. So I'm going to say the sine of 133.4 over 12 equals whichever side you want or angle you want to find. I'm going to find B. So I'm going to say sine of B over 8. So now we'll cross multiply. We have 12 times the sine of B equals 8 times the sine of 133.4. Divide both sides by 12. And in my calculator, I get that the sine of B is 8 times the sine of 133.4 divided by 12. 0.48438. And again, I don't want the sine, I want the actual angle measure. So I'm going to hit sine negative 1 in my calculator. And I get that angle B is 28.97. So we'll say 29.0. So angle B, 29.0 degrees. And then how do I find A? If I know what A and B are, what do I do with A and B to find I'm sorry, what do I do with B and C to find A? Yep. So 133.4 plus 29 gives me what? What's 133.4 plus 29? I get 162.4. So I'm going to take 180 minus that. So 180 minus 162.4. And I get 17.6 degrees. So we just solved this triangle using the first step of the law of cosines. And then once we found out the side and its corresponding angle here, we went back to the law of sines. Questions? We're going to talk here about area. You guys have already found area of a triangle when you were given two sides and the angle included, and we divided it by 2. All right, in this case, you're going to be given all 3 sides. When you're given all 3 sides and you're asked for area, you have to use something called Heron's Formula, and we'll talk about that in 1 second. I'm going to give you the formula on the test, so you don't have to worry about it, but you're going to use something called Heron Formula. This is the formula. You need to understand what all of these things are. A, B, and C are side lengths, which will be given to you. And S is something called the semi-perimeter. All you have to remember with S is you're going to add all 3 of the sides, A, B, and C, and divide it by 2. Then you plug it into the formula. So let's get our example here. First thing I'm going to do is write down the 3 sides that they give me. They told me that A, doesn't matter what you name them because we were adding it together. So I'll say one of them is 315, one of them is 280, and one of the sides is 125. Does anybody have questions about where I got those things from? Okay, well, the first thing we're going to find is our S value. So that means I take the 3 sides, 315, 280, and 125. I add them up and I divide by 2. If you guys are going to do this all in one step in your calculator, you need to put the numerator in parentheses. If you don't, it'll divide 125 divided by 2 first. So I'm going to say 315 plus 280 plus 125 gives me 720 divided by 2. So I get S equals 360. So now we're going to take Heron's formula, which again, I told you will be given to you, and we're going to find the area of this triangle. The formula is S times S minus A, S minus B, and S minus C. You're just taking S and subtracting every side from it. So we have 360 times 360 minus 315, 360 minus 280, and 360 minus 125. Questions so far? All right, we're going to simplify a little bit. So I have 360 times 360 minus 315 is 45. 360 minus 280. Anybody? Anybody? 360 minus 280. Thank you. What's 360 minus 125? 235. All right. Now, last step. You can do all of this at one time in your calculator, or you can simplify one more little bit. You can multiply all those numbers together. So 360 times 45 times 80 times 235. And you get 30456 and 4 zeros. And then you have to take the square root of that. So second square root, second answer. And you get that the area is about 17,452 feet squared. You will be given this formula right here. So you need to be able to understand how to apply it. Can't get much easier than that, guys, when I'm giving you the formula to plug in. So make sure you understand how to apply the law of cosines when you're finding an angle measure, and then Heron's formula. When it says use Heron's formula, look back at your notes and look at Heron's formula. Questions?